The moment you stop accepting disrespect is the moment your life starts to change. Think about it. How many times have you let someone talk to you in a way that didn't sit right? How often have you smiled through it, kept quiet, or let it slide just to avoid drama? And later, you walked away feeling small, not because you weren't strong, but because you didn't know what to say or how to say it. This is real life. It's not about being perfect or pretending you're not affected. It's about learning how to handle people who don't respect you calmly, clearly, and with strength that comes from knowing who you are. This audiobook is here to help you do that, not with fancy theories or overused phrases, but with honest truth, real tools, and simple steps. If you've ever felt walked over, ignored, or undervalued, you're in the right place. Let's change that today. Chapter 1. Stand tall and show people how to treat you. You know, one of the hardest lessons in life is realizing that not everyone will see your value. Some people will talk down to you, ignore you, or treat you like you don't matter. And when that happens, it shakes something deep inside you. It makes you question yourself. But the truth is, this how people treat you is a reflection of them. How you respond is a reflection of you. And that's where your real power lives. Standing tall isn't about pretending to be confident. It's about finally deciding that your worth is not up for discussion. It's about carrying yourself in a way that says, I respect myself, and I expect others to do the same. When you walk into a room, before you say a word, people read your energy. They notice how you stand, how you speak, how you look at them. Respect starts long before you demand it. It starts with how you show up. You don't have to raise your voice to prove your strength. Real strength is quiet, controlled, and calm. It's in the way you hold your ground without needing to attack. It's in the way you can stay centered when someone tries to pull you into chaos. People who don't respect you often want one thing: control. They want to see if they can make you doubt yourself. The moment you lose your calm, you give them that power. But when you stay composed, when you speak with clarity, you remind them you cannot be moved by their noise. Respect begins with standards. And standards aren't something you talk about, they're something you live. Every day, through your choices, through your discipline, through your behavior. When you show up late for your own dreams, when you tolerate poor treatment, when you allow people to talk to you any way they like, you teach them what's okay, and they believe you. Because people always treat you according to what you allow. So if you want to change how they treat you, change what you allow. You don't have to fight for people to see your value. You have to live in a way that makes your value undeniable. That means you take care of yourself. You stay consistent with your goals. You speak with intention. You act with integrity. You do the work that builds your self-respect. Because once you respect yourself, it's impossible for anyone to take that away. You'll stop needing to be liked and start focusing on being respected. There's a big difference between those two. When someone disrespects you, your first reaction might be anger. That's human. You want to defend yourself, to prove a point. But here's what I learned through experience. Your reaction tells the world how much power others have over you. When you stay calm, when you respond instead of react, you send a different message. You say, you can speak however you want, but you cannot touch who I am. That's strength, that's maturity, that's leadership. And leadership starts with self-control. Every person who has earned respect didn't do it by shouting louder or demanding attention. They did it by mastering themselves. They stopped trying to win every argument. They stopped explaining their worth to people who had already decided not to see it. Instead, they put their energy where it mattered, on growth, on progress, on peace. You have to realize that some people will never give you respect because they see your confidence as a threat. They'll criticize you, ignore you, or make jokes at your expense just to bring you down. But that's not your problem to solve. That's their insecurity showing. The key is not to let their behavior shape who you become. If you let bitterness take over, you become like them. But if you stay true to your standards, you rise above them. Standing tall is not arrogance, it's dignity. It's knowing your values and not trading them for approval. It's saying no without guilt. It's setting boundaries and keeping them, even when it makes others uncomfortable. Because every time you break your boundaries to please someone, you lose a little piece of yourself. And the more pieces you lose, the harder it becomes to stand tall. Some people will test you. They'll push to see if you'll bend. But every time you hold firm, every time you say, "That's not okay," you build strength inside you. That strength shows. It changes the way you walk, the way you look at yourself in the mirror. You start to realize that you no longer need people's respect to feel valuable. You already are. And that's when life starts to change. Confidence is not pretending you're perfect. It's accepting your flaws and still knowing your worth. It's saying, "I may not have everything figured out, but I'm proud of who I'm becoming." When you live like that, your energy shifts. You attract people who respect your growth and distance yourself from those who can't handle it. Because people who respect themselves naturally attract respect from others. The way you treat yourself is the foundation of how others treat you. If you speak down to yourself, if you constantly doubt your abilities, people pick up on that. They sense it. But if you carry yourself with quiet confidence, if you value your time, your effort, your presence, others will too. You teach the world how to treat you by how you treat yourself first. So, how do you stand tall when someone tries to put you down? You start by reminding yourself who you are. You remind yourself of what you've overcome. You think of the nights you kept going when no one believed in you. You remember how many times you got back up. That's where your strength lives. You don't need anyone's approval to know that you've earned your place in this world. When someone talks to you with disrespect, you don't need to fight back. You can simply say, "I don't accept that." You don't need to yell it. Say it firmly, clearly, and walk away if you must. Because you're not trying to win a fight, you're protecting your peace, and peace is worth more than being right. Peace is what allows you to keep your focus on your own path instead of getting dragged into someone else's chaos. You can't control other people's behavior, but you can control your reaction. That's where real power comes from: emotional control. The person who can stay calm when others are angry, who can stay respectful even when disrespected, is the one who wins in the long run. Because respect isn't something you demand once, it's something you earn every day by how you live. There will be moments when you feel alone in this journey, because standing tall means standing apart sometimes. It means choosing not to follow the crowd when the crowd disrespects you. It means walking away from certain relationships, even when it hurts. But every time you do, you're telling the world, "I choose me." And that's the moment your life begins to shift towards self-respect and strength. The truth is, you can't force people to respect you, but you can make it impossible for them not to notice your growth. You can carry yourself with such confidence, such quiet strength, that even those who once disrespected you will have to take a second look. And some of them won't like it because your growth reminds them of where they stopped. But that's not your concern. You're not here to stay small to make others comfortable. You're here to become the strongest, most grounded version of yourself. Standing tall doesn't mean you don't feel hurt. It means you don't let that hurt define you. It means you take the pain, you feel it, and you turn it into wisdom. You learn to protect your energy, to give your time only to those who deserve it. You learn that silence is sometimes more powerful than words, because silence says, "I don't need to argue to know my worth." If you ever doubt your strength, look back at what you've already survived. Look at the people who tried to tear you down, and realize you're still here. You're still standing. That means you have everything you need inside you already. The goal is not to change people. The goal is to build yourself so strong that their disrespect no longer shakes your foundation. When you stand tall, you start to see clearly who belongs in your life and who doesn't. You'll notice that people who truly respect you will never make you feel small. They'll never compete with you, mock you, or use your kindness against you. They'll appreciate your honesty, your boundaries, your growth. Those are the people worth keeping close. Respect is not just something you receive, it's something you live. It's in the tone of your voice, the strength of your actions, the way you carry yourself even when no one's watching. It's the decision to do what's right, even when it's hard. It's showing up every day with self-discipline and grace. When you do that long enough, people begin to notice. And eventually, even the ones who once disrespected you will start to treat you differently. But here's the truth. By that time, you won't even need their respect, because you'll already have built something more powerful, self-respect. And that's the kind of respect that never leaves you. So stand tall, not because you're trying to prove anything to anyone, but because you've finally learned to value yourself enough to stop shrinking for others. You don't need to be loud. You just need to be clear, consistent, and confident in who you are. When you do that, you'll notice something amazing. People start to treat you the way you treat yourself. That's how you handle people who don't respect you, by becoming the person who refuses to forget their own worth. Stand tall, keep your standards high, and never again let anyone convince you that you deserve less than respect. Because once you truly respect yourself, the world learns to follow your lead. Chapter 2. Build real confidence by keeping promises to yourself. Confidence isn't something you find in a book or a motivational video. It's not something someone can hand you, and it doesn't appear overnight. Confidence is built quietly, slowly, and deeply through one simple act: keeping the promises you make to yourself. Every time you tell yourself you'll do something, and you actually do it, you strengthen your trust in who you are. And trust is what confidence is built on. You can't be confident in someone you don't trust, not even yourself. When people say they lack confidence, what they really mean is they've broken too many promises to themselves. They said they'd wake up early, but they didn't. They said they'd start that project, but they didn't. They said they'd stand up for themselves, but they stayed silent. Each time you break a promise to yourself, you send your mind a message: I can't rely on me. That message sticks. It eats away at your self-belief. It makes you hesitate, doubt, and shrink back. But when you do the opposite, when you start keeping small promises, you slowly rebuild that inner bond. You start to believe yourself again. Confidence is not about pretending you're strong. It's about knowing you can depend on your own actions. Every small win builds evidence. The more evidence you create, the more solid your belief becomes. When you tell yourself you'll work out and you do, that's evidence. When you say you'll have that difficult conversation and follow through, that's evidence. When you promise yourself to stop chasing people who don't value you and actually mean it, that's evidence. Confidence grows in the quiet repetition of these moments. It doesn't shout. It builds quietly through discipline. Most people wait to feel confident before they take action. But that's the trap. Action comes first. Confidence follows. You don't get confidence from thinking, you get it from doing. Each time you act, even when you're unsure, you tell your brain, I can handle this. And that one thought is enough to shift everything. You begin to see yourself as capable, not because someone told you so, but because you've proven it to yourself through action. Keeping promises to yourself is not about perfection. It's about consistency. It's about showing up even when it's inconvenient, even when it's uncomfortable, even when no one's watching. Because every time you show up, you rewrite your identity. You go from I can't to I can, From "I'll try" to "I will." That's the transformation that changes everything. Think about it this way. If a friend constantly broke their promises to you, how much would you trust them? Probably not much. Now imagine your mind as that friend. Every time you break your word to yourself, that friendship weakens. You start to doubt your own potential. But when you start doing what you say you'll do, you rebuild that relationship. You become someone you trust. That's when you start to walk differently, speak differently, and live differently. Building real confidence doesn't require massive leaps. It starts with small steps done consistently. Wake up when you said you would. Finish that task you said you'd complete. Say no when you promised to stop saying yes to things that drain you. These small wins build something powerful: momentum, and momentum is what turns good intentions into results. The more momentum you create, the more unstoppable you feel. People often confuse confidence with arrogance, but they couldn't be more different. Arrogance is loud and fragile. It depends on others noticing you. Real confidence is quiet and unshakable. It doesn't need approval. It comes from knowing that you do what you say you'll do. You've built a foundation that no one can take away from you. There's a peace that comes with keeping your promises. It's not dramatic, but it's deeply satisfying. It's the peace of knowing you're in control of your own growth. It's the feeling of lying down at night and being proud of the person you were today. That's not ego, that's alignment. You said you would, and you did, and that's how you build self-respect. Self-respect is the root of confidence. Without it, everything else crumbles. When you start honoring your word, your self-image changes. You begin to see yourself as someone capable of following through. You carry yourself differently because your brain now has proof of your reliability. People can sense that. They treat you differently, not because you told them to, but because your energy speaks for you. You no longer need to prove yourself. You just live it. It's not about being perfect. You'll still fail sometimes. You'll still have off days. But the key is not to break the streak completely. When you fall short, acknowledge it, learn from it, and get back on track immediately. Don't beat yourself up, just repair the promise. Because confidence isn't built on being flawless. It's built on showing up again and again, even after you've fallen. You don't have to make huge promises at first. Start small. Promise to drink more water today. Promise to spend 10 minutes reflecting on your goals. Promise to move your body, to be kind to yourself, to take one small action that aligns with who you want to become. Then do it. Once you keep a few small promises, you'll feel something shift inside you. That's your power returning. Confidence also grows when you face discomfort. Every time you do something that scares you, have a tough conversation, set a boundary, say no to something unhealthy, you stretch your capacity. You realize that fear doesn't have to stop you. Fear becomes a signal that you're growing. And once you start associating discomfort with growth, you stop avoiding it. You start chasing it. Because you know what's on the other side: pride, progress, and confidence. Keeping promises to yourself isn't just about productivity. It's about identity. You're training your mind to see yourself differently. You're teaching it that you can trust your own word. That's why this habit is so powerful. Once your mind believes you, everything becomes easier. Decisions become clearer. Goals become achievable. You no longer second-guess yourself, because you know if you say you'll do it, you will. Real confidence shows up in quiet moments. It's in how you carry yourself when no one's applauding. It's in how you handle setbacks without quitting. It's in how you keep your focus on growth instead of comparing yourself to others. When you start trusting your own progress, other people's opinions lose their power. You stop chasing validation because you already have internal proof of your worth. Self-trust changes everything. It changes the way you handle criticism, rejection, and failure. When you trust yourself, you know you'll find a way through. You stop panicking when things go wrong because your confidence isn't based on circumstances, it's based on your consistency. That kind of confidence can't be shaken easily. It's earned through repetition, discipline, and honesty with yourself. Building this kind of confidence also means forgiving yourself for the times you broke your promises in the past. Carrying guilt won't help you grow. What matters is what you do now. Start today. Start small. Start honest. You don't need a perfect plan, you just need to follow through on one small thing you said you'd do. That single act starts a ripple effect that changes everything. People will notice when you start keeping promises to yourself. You'll become more grounded. Your words will carry more weight because you live by them. You won't need to convince people, they'll feel it. That's how leaders are built. They do what they say, even when it's hard. And that integrity becomes their confidence. Confidence is not about looking in the mirror and saying positive words. It's about living in a way that makes those words true. You can't fake self-belief. You build it by showing up. You prove it through your habits. And when you do, you won't need to talk yourself into confidence. You'll simply know it's there. One of the greatest feelings in life is realizing you've become someone you can rely on. You start to feel calm inside. You stop overthinking. You stop trying to impress people. You begin to move differently, not because you're better than anyone, but because you finally feel aligned with yourself. That alignment is power. It's what makes people trust you, respect you, and follow your lead. Remember, confidence is not something you achieve once. It's something you maintain daily. You build it with every small act of discipline. You protect it by being honest with yourself. You strengthen it by doing what's right, even when it's hard. Every day is an opportunity to add another layer to your confidence, another reason to trust yourself more. You don't need to announce your goals to the world. Just make quiet promises and keep them. Over time, you'll surprise yourself. You'll look back and realize how far you've come, not because anyone pushed you, but because you chose to honor your own word. That's real power, knowing that your confidence doesn't depend on others, but on the strength of your own commitment. When you build real confidence by keeping promises to yourself, you no longer walk around searching for validation. You no longer need to prove your worth through someone else's approval. You already know what you bring to the table. You know that your word means something, especially to you. And that's when life begins to open up. Confidence built on self-trust lasts. It's not shaken by opinions, not broken by setbacks, not dependent on applause. It grows quietly, steadily, and deeply every time you do what you said you would do. That's how you earn your own respect. And once you have that, no one can take it away. Chapter 3 up clearly when someone crosses your boundary. There comes a moment in every person's life when silence becomes too heavy to carry. You stay quiet when someone crosses the line, hoping it will keep the peace. You tell yourself it's not worth it, that maybe they didn't mean it, that staying calm means you're being mature. But over time, that silence starts to eat at you. It begins to whisper, "Why didn't you say something?" And that's when you realize silence is not peace, if it costs your self-respect. Speaking up isn't about confrontation, it's about communication. It's about teaching others how to treat you without losing your calm or dignity. When someone crosses your boundary, your mind feels it before your words do. There's that small tightening in your chest, that slight discomfort, that quiet voice that says, "This doesn't feel right." But many people ignore that voice because they fear conflict. They think saying something will make things worse. The truth is, avoiding discomfort only delays it. When you don't speak up, you don't protect the relationship, you poison it silently. Every time you swallow your feelings, resentment grows a little stronger. It doesn't go away. It builds until one day it explodes. You have the right to express yourself clearly when someone disrespects you. Boundaries are not walls, they are doors. They define where you end and where someone else begins. Without them, people will walk all over your time, your emotions, and your energy. Speaking up doesn't make you rude or difficult, it makes you honest. People who truly care about you will appreciate clarity. The ones who don't respect it were never interested in respecting you in the first place. Confidence in communication comes from understanding that your feelings are valid. You don't need permission to say, "I don't like that," or "Please don't speak to me that way." The goal is not to attack, but to It's not about being louder than the other person, it's about being firm and calm. A clear voice is more powerful than an angry one. You don't need to shout to be heard, you just need to mean what you say. Many people confuse kindness with silence, but kindness without boundaries turns into self-betrayal. When you constantly avoid expressing your discomfort to protect someone else's feelings, you end up hurting your own. Real kindness includes honesty. It's saying what needs to be said with respect and without guilt, because when you speak your truth clearly, you're not trying to hurt anyone, you're trying to keep the connection healthy. Boundaries are a sign of self-awareness. They show that you understand what you need to feel safe and respect. Every healthy relationship, whether personal or professional, depends on boundaries. Without them, trust fades. People who respect themselves know where they stand, and they communicate it without fear. They don't let small violations slide, because they understand that every unspoken moment of discomfort becomes an open door for more of the same. Speaking up doesn't mean you have to sound perfect. It just means you need to be honest. You can say, "I don't feel comfortable with that," or "That doesn't work for me." You don't need long explanations. You don't owe anyone a lecture. Boundaries are not debate. The moment you feel you need to justify your feelings repeatedly, it's a sign that the other person isn't interested in understanding. They're interested in control. It's normal to feel nervous before speaking up. That's your body protecting you from potential rejection. But remember this, staying silent doesn't prevent rejection, it only guarantees self-neglect. You can't build confidence without using your voice. The first few times you speak up, your words might shake, your heart might race, but that's how growth feels. Each time you do it, the fear shrinks a little. You realize you won't fall apart by being honest. You realize you don't have to carry other people's discomfort. You are allowed to take up space. Boundaries are not about pushing people away. They are about keeping the right people close. When you communicate your limits, you give people a chance to meet you where you are. You give them clarity, and if they choose to walk away because of your boundaries, they were never planning to respect you anyway. You lose nothing by being truthful. You only lose what was fake. When someone crosses your boundary, address it early. Don't wait until it becomes a habit. People learn through consistency. The first time you allow something that doesn't sit right with you, you're teaching them how to treat you. Speak clearly, directly, and without hostility. Say, "I prefer not to discuss that," or "I need you to stop raising your voice." The goal is clarity, not control. The sooner you communicate it, the easier it is for both sides to understand what's acceptable. Boundaries are not about punishment, they are about responsibility. You're not trying to control someone else's behavior, you're taking responsibility for your emotional space. If someone keeps crossing your limits after you've expressed them clearly, your next step is not more words, it's action. You distance yourself, you reduce contact, or you remove them from your circle. Because boundaries without consequences are just suggestions, and your self-respect deserves more than suggestion. People who struggle with boundaries often come from backgrounds where they were taught to please others, to avoid conflict, or to prioritize harmony over honesty. But maturity means unlearning those patterns. It means understanding that you can be respectful and assertive at the same time. It means realizing that you're not responsible for how others react to your truth. You are only responsible for delivering it clearly and calmly. When you speak up, focus on the behavior, not the person. Instead of saying, "You're disrespectful," say, "I feel disrespected when that happens." This helps the other person hear you without becoming defensive. You're not labeling them, you're expressing how their actions affect you. Clear communication builds understanding, and understanding builds stronger connections. But not everyone will like your boundary. Some people benefit from your silence. They enjoy having control over your time, your kindness, and your patience. When you finally start speaking up, they may react with anger or guilt. They might call you selfish, cold, or distant, but don't let that shake you. That reaction isn't proof that you're wrong. It's proof that your boundaries are working. You're disrupting a pattern that benefited them but hurt you. You have to remind yourself that saying no doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you an honest one. The people who truly value you won't leave because you said no. They'll respect you more. Speaking up doesn't drive away the right people, it filters out the wrong ones. Every time you stand your ground, you create more space for genuine relationships built on mutual respect. Boundaries also protect your energy. Think about how drained you feel after saying yes when you meant no. That exhaustion isn't just physical, it's emotional. It's the fatigue of living against your truth. The moment you start honoring your limits, you reclaim that energy. You stop carrying unnecessary emotional weight. You become lighter, calmer, and clearer. To speak up effectively, you must first know what your boundaries are. Many people struggle to communicate limits because they haven't defined them clearly. Spend time understanding what behaviors, words, or situations make you feel uncomfortable or disrespected. Once you identify them, decide what you'll do if those lines are crossed. That clarity gives you confidence when it's time to communicate. You'll speak from certainty, not emotion. It's also important to remember that you don't owe anyone your forgiveness or explanation after a boundary is crossed. You can choose to forgive, but that's your decision, not a demand. Forgiveness and access are not the same thing. You can wish someone well and still keep your distance. Protecting your peace doesn't mean holding a grudge. It means holding your ground. Over time, you'll notice that the more you practice speaking up, the less conflict you experience. Because people learn how to approach you. They understand what's acceptable and what's not. Your relationships become healthier because they're built on clarity. And that's when you start to feel a deep sense of respect, not just from others, but from yourself. You realize that you don't have to compromise your peace for connection. You can have both when you communicate honestly. There will always be people who test your limits, intentionally or not. The key is to stay consistent. If you speak up once but stay silent the next time, you send mixed signals. Consistency shows that your boundaries are real. You don't have to explain them over and over. You just have to stand by them. People respect what you enforce, not what you announce. Learning to speak up clearly is an act of self-love. It's how you tell the world that your feelings matter. It's how you show that you value yourself enough to protect your peace. And that self-respect becomes the foundation for every strong relationship you'll ever have.
It takes courage to use your voice, especially if you've been quiet for too long. But every time you do, you reclaim a part of yourself that you once gave away. The part that wanted to please everyone. The part that thought silence was strength. The part that felt guilty for wanting space. When you start speaking up, you become whole again. And here's something powerful. When you communicate your boundaries clearly, you also inspire others to do the same. You show them it's possible to be kind and firm, gentle and strong. You teach through your example that self-respect doesn't require aggression, only honesty. So when someone crosses your boundary, take a breath, stand firm, and speak your truth. You don't need to argue. You don't need to justify, just be clear. Say it once with conviction and let your actions back it up. Because at the end of the day, people don't respect words, they respect consistency. And when your words and actions align, that's when you truly become unshakable. Speaking up clearly, when someone crosses your boundary, isn't about changing them. It's about changing how you value yourself. That's the moment you stop being afraid of losing people and start being afraid of losing your peace. That's the kind of power no one can take from you.
Chapter 4. Walk away when respect is no longer given. There comes a time in life when you have to choose between being respected and being liked. Many people spend years trying to hold on to relationships, jobs, or friendships that no longer honor who they are. They convince themselves that patience will fix everything, that maybe the other person will change, that if they just give more, love more, tolerate more, somehow things will get better. But what happens is the opposite. The more you tolerate disrespect, the more you lose yourself. Respect is not something you beg for, it's something you require, and when it's no longer present, walking away is not weakness, it's strength. Walking away doesn't mean you hate anyone, it means you love yourself enough to stop settling for less than you deserve. It's not revenge, it's release. It's letting go of people who no longer see your value so you can create space for those who do. You don't need to prove your worth to someone who's already decided to forget it. You don't need to chase validation from people who only notice your presence when they need something. There's peace in understanding that some people are not meant to walk the full journey with you. The hardest part of walking away is not the leaving, it's the acceptance. It's realizing that the version of someone you once cared about no longer exists. It's accepting that respect cannot survive where boundaries are ignored and effort is one-sided. When you stay too long in a space where you're unappreciated, you teach yourself to accept less than you deserve. And every day you stay, it gets harder to remember what respect feels like. That's why walking away is an act of self-preservation. It's how you protect your spirit from being drained by people who no longer honor it. You can't control how others treat you, but you can control what you allow. The moment you stop tolerating disrespect, everything changes. You begin to reclaim your power. You stop reacting and start deciding. You realize that your silence doesn't protect relationships. It only protects disrespect. And once you understand that, you stop fighting to stay in places that don't value your peace. You stop explaining yourself to people who have already shown they don't care to understand. Respect is more than words. It's how someone listens to you. It's how they speak to you when you're not around. It's how they respond to your needs. And that consistency disappears. The relationship loses its foundation. Disrespect doesn't always come through shouting or insults. Sometimes it's in indifference, in dismissal, in being taken for granted. Sometimes the loudest form of disrespect is silence, when your feelings are ignored, your effort unnoticed, your kindness overlooked. That's when you must decide if staying is still aligned with your self-worth. Walking away doesn't always look dramatic.
Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's just fewer messages, fewer calls, fewer explanations. Sometimes it's choosing not to argue anymore. It's not giving the same energy to people who take you for granted. It's not seeking closure from those who never offered respect in the first place. It's realizing that closure doesn't come from their apology. It comes from your decision to stop waiting for one. People will often test how far they can go with you. They'll see how much disrespect you'll tolerate before you finally draw a line. When you continue to stay after those moments, they learn that your boundaries are flexible. They begin to believe they can treat you however they want without consequence. But the moment you walk away, you send a message that's impossible to ignore, that your respect is value, and that you will not trade your dignity for company. Walking away is not about pride, it's about clarity. It's the moment you finally understand that not every connection deserves a lifetime seat in your heart. Some people come into your life to teach you what you will never accept again. They're not your loss. They're your lesson. You may not realize it while it hurts, but those lessons shape you into someone stronger, wiser, and more aware of your worth. When respect fades, the energy changes, conversations become cold. Support turns into judgment. What once felt mutual starts feeling one-sided. You find yourself walking on eggshells, constantly questioning what you did wrong, trying to win back the version of them that used to care. But you can't build a relationship on memories. You can't stay loyal to potential. When the reality is no longer healthy, you owe it to yourself to step away. Not because you gave up, but because you finally understood your value. The truth is, staying in a place where respect has vanished will never bring it back. Disrespect tolerated becomes disrespect repeated. The more you accept it, the deeper it roots itself into your life. People rarely change when you keep accepting what they shouldn't be giving. Change happens when you remove your presence, when they no longer have access to your energy, your time, or your care. That's when they realize what they lost. But by then you won't need their realization, because you'll have found peace within yourself. Walking away doesn't mean you stop caring. You can still wish them well. You can still be grateful for the memories, but you also accept that your well-being comes first. You can love someone deeply and still recognize that their behavior isn't good for your spirit. That's maturity. Choosing your peace over attachment. The more you grow, the more you'll realize that peace feels better than proving a point. There's power in silence when it's used with purpose. You don't need to announce your departure or explain your reasons endlessly. People who truly valued you will already know why you're gone. People who didn't will try to twist the story, but that's not your problem to fix. Your responsibility ends where your self-respect begins. Walking away quietly is often the loudest statement you can make. Self-respect means knowing when your presence is no longer appreciated. It means having the strength to detach from situations that don't nurture your growth. You can't heal in the same place that broke your trust. You can't rebuild confidence in an environment that keeps tearing it down. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to leave. People often think walking away makes them cold or heartless, but it's the opposite. It takes heart to walk away from what you once wanted so badly. It takes strength to release someone you still care about because they stopped treating you right. It takes courage to let go of what's familiar in pursuit of something healthier. And that's what self-respect demands. Courage. When you decide to walk away, doubt will follow. Your mind will ask, what if I'm overreacting? What if I'm making a mistake? That's natural, but ask yourself this. How long have you been feeling unseen? How many times have you explained your worth? How many times have your needs been dismissed? When the pattern repeats, it's not a misunderstanding, it's a decision. And if someone keeps choosing to disrespect you, it's time to choose yourself. You'll know you made the right choice when peace replaces confusion. You'll wake up lighter. You'll start to feel energy returning that you didn't realize you lost. You'll stop replaying old conversations in your head. That's the gift of walking away. Clarity. You begin to see that holding on was draining you more than letting go ever could. Sometimes walking away isn't physical, it's emotional. You might still see the person, still share spaces, still exchange words. But inside you've detached. You've stopped expecting effort where none exists. You've stopped giving energy to what doesn't grow. That inner detachment is powerful. It's how you stop being controlled by someone's lack of respect. When you walk away, don't do it to prove a point. Do it because you're finally choosing peace over pain. You don't need anyone to witness your strength. You don't need applause. The reward is internal. It's the relief that comes from no longer begging for what should have been freely given. Respect should never require begging. Walking away is also a way to reset your standards. It's your way of telling life, I'm ready for better, because the moment you close one door with confidence, new ones begin to appear. You create room for healthier connections, for environments where your voice is heard, where your presence is valued. Life always rewards self-respect. Not immediately, but always. There's a certain grace in letting go without bitterness. It means you've grown past the need to explain yourself to those who refuse to listen. You've learned that not every ending needs closure. Some endings are simply new beginnings, disguised as heartbreak. When you leave with peace in your heart, you take your power with you. Walking away doesn't erase your compassion, it refines it. You stop giving to those who misuse your kindness and start giving to yourself. You learn to set higher standards, not out of pride, but out of wisdom. You begin to understand that love without respect isn't love at all. It's attachment. And attachment is not worth your peace. You owe it to yourself to be in spaces that celebrate you, not tolerate you. You deserve conversations that uplift you, not belittle you. You deserve relationships that make you feel seen, not invisible. But none of that will come if you keep holding on to people who've already stopped respecting you. Sometimes the most powerful move is simply to stop showing up where you're no longer valued. When you finally walk away from disrespect, you'll see yourself differently. You'll look in the mirror and see strength instead of fear. You'll realize that you never needed anyone's permission to leave. You just needed to give yourself the approval. That's what walking away really is. Self-approval in action. So if you find yourself in a place where you are constantly explaining, defending, or shrinking just to keep the peace, it's time to remember who you are. Respect is not something you should have to fight for. It's the foundation of every healthy connection. And if it's no longer there, the most powerful thing you can do is take your dignity and walk away. Because when you finally walk away from where you are disrespected, you don't lose anything real. You only lose the illusion that staying would somehow make things better. What you gain instead is priceless. Peace, self-worth, and the freedom to rebuild your life on respect that starts with you.
Chapter 5. Focus daily on becoming proud of your own growth. There's a moment in life when you stop chasing perfection and start chasing progress. It's the moment you realize that the real victory isn't in being the best. It's in becoming better than you were yesterday. Growth doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't always look impressive to others, but every small step forward counts. The goal is to build a life where you can look at yourself each day and say, I'm proud of who I'm becoming. That pride doesn't come from applause or attention. It comes from knowing that you showed up for yourself again today. Growth is a deeply personal process. Nobody else can measure it for you because no one else knows the battles you fight silently. Maybe your growth today is getting out of bed when you didn't want to. Maybe it's choosing to stay calm in a situation that used to break you. Maybe it's walking away from something that no longer serves you. Whatever it looks like, it matters. You don't have to wait until your life looks perfect to start being proud of yourself. You can start now, in the middle of the process, while you're still figuring things out. The problem is that most people only celebrate milestones, not moments. They wait for the big win, the big breakthrough, the visible success before they feel good about themselves.
But real confidence grows when you celebrate small progress. Because growth isn't a destination, it's a daily choice. Every morning, you decide who you'll be. You decide whether to stay stuck in old habits or to take one more step forward. It's those small, consistent steps that change everything over time. You have to stop comparing your growth to others. Everyone has a different starting point, a different pace, a different story. When you compare your journey to someone else's, you rob yourself of gratitude. You stop noticing how far you've come because you're too focused on how far someone else has gone. The truth is, nobody's path is the same. You might be growing quietly while someone else is shining publicly, but the quiet growth often lasts longer because it's built on real effort, not validation. Every day is a new opportunity to build yourself. You don't have to do everything at once. Just do something that moves you closer to who you want to be. Maybe that means reading a page of a book instead of scrolling your phone. Maybe it means spending 10 minutes journaling about what you're grateful for. Maybe it's showing kindness to someone when you could have stayed silent. These small acts add up. They shape your character, your mindset, your discipline. Being proud of your growth doesn't mean ignoring your flaws. It means accepting that you're human and still trying to improve. You don't need to wait until you're flawless to love yourself. You can love yourself in progress. When you start showing appreciation for the effort you put in, you train your brain to focus on what's working instead of what's missing. And that shift in focus changes everything. The reason so many people feel stuck is because they measure progress only in outcomes, not effort. They say, I haven't achieved this yet, so I'm failing. But the truth is, the effort you make today is planting seeds for tomorrow. Growth is not always visible at first. Just because others can't see it doesn't mean it isn't happening. The small internal changes, your patience, your discipline, your focus, are often the biggest indicators of progress. When you start focusing daily on your growth, you begin to notice how much power you actually have. You stop waiting for motivation to find you. You start creating it through routine, consistency, and intention. You begin to see that self-improvement isn't something you do once a week. It's something you practice every single day. It's how you talk to yourself, how you treat others, how you manage your emotions, how you handle setbacks. Growth isn't just about success, it's about maturity. Every day, ask yourself simple questions. Did I show effort today? Did I act with integrity? Did I make choices that reflect the person I want to become? These questions keep you accountable without being harsh. They remind you that growth isn't about being perfect. It's about being intentional. Each day you answer yes to one of those questions. You're building self-respect. And self-respect leads to pride. The healthy kind, that doesn't depend on anyone's opinion. The truth is, you won't always see immediate results. Some days, it will feel like nothing's changing. But that's how real growth works. It's slow, invisible, and quiet at first. You'll only notice it when you look back one day and realize that the things that used to break you no longer have power over you. You'll notice it when you handle pressure with calmness. When you choose kindness over reaction. When you stop chasing things that used to control your happiness. That's progress, and it's worth celebrating. You have to give yourself permission to feel proud of small wins. Too many people minimize their effort because they think it's not big enough. They think being proud means being arrogant. It's pride in your growth is self-acknowledgement. It's saying, I see my effort, and I value it. When you acknowledge your own progress, you motivate yourself to keep going. You stop needing external validation because your pride comes from within. Growth doesn't mean you'll never make mistakes again. It means you'll handle them differently. It means you'll take responsibility instead of blaming. You'll learn instead of avoiding. You'll adjust instead of quitting. That's the beauty of focusing on growth. It gives you resilience. It teaches you that setbacks don't erase progress. They refine it. Every time you get back up, you reinforce your belief in your own strength. Being proud of your growth also means appreciating your journey, even the hard parts. The struggles you've faced have shaped your strength. The disappointments have deepened your wisdom. Every challenge has taught you something that comfort never could. So instead of wishing you were somewhere else, take a moment to recognize how far you've already come. You are not where you used to be, and that's something to be proud of. If you want to grow daily, create habits that support your evolution. Wake up with purpose. Set intentions for the day. Feed your mind with knowledge. Surround yourself with people who encourage your growth instead of stunting it. Reflect each night on what you did well and what you can do better. Growth is not a one-time event, it's a lifestyle. The more consistent you are, the more natural it becomes. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is slow down and notice yourself. Pay attention to the person you are becoming. Notice the changes in how you think, how you react, how you carry yourself. You'll realize that you're growing in ways you once thought were impossible. You'll start to see your progress not just in achievements, but in emotional maturity, patience, and peace. That's the kind of growth that lasts. Stop judging yourself by how fast you're growing. Some seasons are about movement, others are about stillness. Growth also happens in silence, when you're learning patience, when you're rebuilding your mindset, when you're healing from something unseen. Just because it's not visible doesn't mean it's not happening. Trust your process. You don't have to rush transformation. You just have to stay committed to it. Becoming proud of your growth also means forgiving yourself for your past. You can't move forward if you keep replaying old mistakes. Every time you remind yourself of who you used to be, you take away energy from who you're becoming. Growth requires self-forgiveness. It's saying, I didn't know better then, but I do now. That mindset keeps you grounded and open to improvement. Pride in your growth is also built through gratitude. Each day, take a moment to appreciate what you've done right. Thank yourself for trying again. Thank yourself for showing up. Gratitude shifts your focus from what's missing to what's improving. It helps you see how much progress you've made even in small things. And the more you practice gratitude, the more motivated you feel to keep growing. When you make growth your daily focus, you stop waiting for the perfect moment to start. You realize that progress is made in ordinary moments. In how you respond to frustration. In how you talk to people. In how you keep promises to yourself. Every ordinary day becomes an opportunity to evolve. That's how transformation happens, through small, consistent, intentional choices repeated over time. You'll find that pride in your growth brings peace. You no longer chase constant excitement or approval. You learn to be content with who you are and curious about who you're becoming. That balance keeps you grounded. It reminds you that self-worth isn't found in achievement. It's found in effort. When you focus on growth, success becomes a byproduct, not the goal. There will be days when you doubt yourself. You'll wonder if you're making enough progress, or if all your effort is worth it. But those are the days that matter most. Because pushing through doubt builds character. Those quiet days of effort, when no one sees or praises you, are the ones that define your future. You're building something strong inside. Discipline, patience, consistency, and that strength becomes your foundation for everything else. Growth is not a race, it's a relationship with yourself. You have to treat it with respect. Some days you'll move forward quickly, other days you'll stumble. That's okay. What matters is that you keep going. That you keep choosing yourself even when no one's watching. Every time you pick yourself back up, you're building the habit of pride. When you look back on your life years from now, you won't remember every failure or success in detail. What you'll remember is how you grew through it all. You'll remember the mornings you chose discipline over comfort. You'll remember the times you stayed kind when it was hard. You'll remember the progress that no one saw but you. And that memory, that quiet pride in your own growth, will be worth more than any praise you could have received. So focus daily on becoming proud of your own growth. Don't wait for the world to validate your progress. Look at yourself and see someone trying, learning, and improving. That's what matters. Be proud of your effort, your patience, your persistence. You're becoming someone stronger, wiser, and more at peace, and that's something to celebrate every single day.
Chapter 6. Stay calm and control your energy under pressure. Pressure exposes who we really are. It strips away comfort, excuses, and appearances. When life tests you, when people push your buttons, when plans fall apart and emotions rise, the way you respond reveals your level of control. Staying calm under pressure doesn't mean you don't feel anything. It means you don't let what you feel control what you do. It's not about pretending everything's fine. It's about keeping your center when the world around you tries to shake it. Real strength is quiet, steady, and focused, even when everything else feels uncertain. You can't control every situation, but you can control your energy. You can't control what others say or how they act, but you can control what you give power to. Most people waste energy reacting to everything that frustrates them. They let anger, ego, or fear take over. But calm people think differently. They understand that every reaction costs energy, and energy is too valuable to waste on things that don't deserve it. When you learn to manage your emotional energy, you begin to handle life with clarity and intention, instead of impulse and regret. Pressure doesn't always come from big events. Sometimes it's in daily moments, a rude comment, a missed deadline, a disagreement, a challenge that feels unfair. Those moments test your patience. And in those moments, you have two choices. You can let emotion take control, or you can pause, breathe, and choose your response consciously. That pause is power. It gives your mind time to think before your mouth moves or your actions react. That space between stimulus and response is where maturity grows. When you stay calm, you think better. Your mind stays sharp. You can see the situation clearly instead of through the fog of emotion. People who lose control often regret what they say or do afterward because they acted from emotion, not reason. But when you remain calm, you stay in command of yourself. You become someone others can rely on because your mood doesn't swing with every challenge. Calmness communicates confidence. It shows strength without aggression, control without arrogance. Controlling your energy under pressure also means being aware of what drains you. Some situations are out of your control, but some aren't. You simply allow them to pull you in. Arguments that go nowhere, people who thrive on drama, environments that keep you anxious, these all consume your peace. You can't grow if you keep feeding chaos. Protect your energy like it's your most valuable resource, because it is. You only have so much focus and emotional bandwidth each day. Don't give it to things that don't build you. It's easy to be calm when life is going well. The real test is how you respond when things don't go your way. That's where growth happens. Pressure shows you where your emotions still control you. It reveals where you need more discipline, more patience, more self-awareness. If you can stay grounded when everything around you is chaotic, you've mastered one of the most important life skills, emotional regulation. That's what separates strong minds from reactive ones. Calmness doesn't mean weakness. Some people mistake patience for passivity, but they're not the same. Calm people are not emotionless, they're in control. They know that reacting emotionally often makes things worse, not better. They choose peace, not because they're afraid to fight, but because they understand that fighting isn't always worth it. Calmness is a sign of intelligence.
It's knowing when to speak, when to act, and when to walk away. Staying calm starts with awareness. Notice your body's signals. When your heart rate increases, your shoulders tighten, or your breathing shortens, that's your body's way of telling you it's under stress. Instead of ignoring it, pause and breathe deeply. Slow breathing activates your body's natural calming system. It lowers stress hormones and brings your focus back to the present. When your mind starts racing, focus on what's in your control right now: your words, your tone, your posture, your decisions. Everything else is just noise. Under pressure, your thoughts can become your biggest enemy. Fear and anger distort perception. They make problems look bigger than they are. That's why you have to train your mind to slow down. Ask yourself questions that bring logic back into the situation. What's really happening here? What's within my control? Will this matter a week from now? Questions like these shift your focus from emotion to clarity. The more you practice this, the easier it becomes to stay calm when it matters most. You also have to recognize that not every reaction deserves your attention. Some people will deliberately try to provoke you. They want to see if they can control your emotions. When you stay calm, you deny them that power. You communicate silently that you're not easily moved. That's how strong people handle conflict, with composure. They don't match other people's chaos. They hold their own peace. Controlling your energy under pressure also means knowing your triggers. Everyone has situations that test their patience: disrespect, criticism, failure, or uncertainty. The key is to recognize your patterns before they control you. If you know certain environments make you reactive, prepare for them. Set an intention before you enter those spaces. Tell yourself, no matter what happens, I'll stay calm and centered. It's not just words. It's a mindset that prepares you to respond instead of react. Your emotional energy determines how you experience life. Two people can go through the same challenge and respond completely differently. One panics, the other stays composed. The difference isn't the situation, it's the control they have over their state of mind. The calmer person sees options that the panicked person misses. That's why calmness isn't just emotional control, it's strategic power. The calmer you are, the clearer you think, and the better your decisions become. You can build emotional control through daily habits. Start your day with calm, not chaos. Avoid rushing into social media or stressful conversations the moment you wake up. Give yourself time to center your thoughts. Meditation, journaling, or quiet reflection, even for 5 minutes, sets the tone for how you handle pressure later in the day. When you start calm, you're harder to shake. It's also important to take care of your physical body. Sleep, nutrition, and movement directly affect your emotional stability. A tired mind overreacts easily. A tense body amplifies stress. When you treat your body well, your mind follows. Staying calm under pressure isn't just mental discipline. It's also physiological balance. You can't have emotional control with a neglected body. Another way to control your energy is to choose your battles wisely. Not every argument needs your voice. Not every insult deserves your reply. Sometimes silence protects your power more than words ever could. Calm people understand that reacting to everything only spreads their energy thin. They don't waste time trying to prove points to people who have already made up their minds. They stay focused on what truly matters. Pressure moments are where leaders are made. When everything feels urgent and people around you panic, your calm presence becomes an anchor. You become the person others look to, because you don't crumble under tension. That's what influence is. Not just speaking with authority, but carrying peace in chaos. People remember the ones who stay composed when everything's falling apart. Calmness also builds respect. When you respond with control instead of anger, people trust you more. They know you're not driven by impulse. You gain credibility because your emotions don't dictate your decisions. Whether it's in your career, your relationships, or your personal life, calmness communicates stability. And in a world where everyone's reacting to everything, stability stands out. Sometimes the best way to stay calm is to step away for a moment. There's no weakness in pausing. When emotions are high, take a short break, go for a walk, breathe deeply, or sit in silence. That small reset can prevent a reaction that could take hours or days to repair. The moment you feel your emotions rising, remember, it's better to pause now than to regret later. Training yourself to control energy under pressure also means being selective about what you absorb. You can't fill your mind with negativity all day and expect peace. Protect your inputs, the conversations you have, the news you consume, the people you spend time with. If something constantly drains your emotional energy, limit your exposure to it. Your peace is your responsibility, not someone else's gift. Calmness is a daily practice, not a one-time choice. You'll still have moments where you lose patience, but each time you recover faster, you're growing stronger. The goal isn't to never feel stress, it's to handle it with more grace each time. Over time, your reactions slow down, your thinking sharpens, and your presence becomes unshakable. That's how emotional mastery develops, through repetition, awareness, and practice. When pressure hits, remind yourself that you've survived harder days before. You've faced challenges and made it through. You're not new to difficulty. That memory gives you confidence. Pressure loses its power when you remember your strength. You've overcome before, and you'll overcome again. That's not optimism. That's truth built from experience. You can also use perspective to calm yourself quickly. Ask, will this matter in a year? Often, what feels overwhelming now will fade in time. Perspective reduces the intensity of emotion. It helps you see that most problems are temporary, but your reaction can have lasting effects. So choose the response that you won't regret later. Choose calm, not chaos. When you learn to stay calm and control your energy under pressure, you start living with more clarity and less fear. You start living with more clarity and less fear. You stop reacting to every external event. You start focusing on your internal state. Your thoughts, your peace, your focus. That's where real freedom lies, because the world will always bring pressure. But if your inner world is strong, no outside force can break your peace. You become someone who can walk into chaos and remain grounded. You become the calm in the storm. And that calmness is what makes you powerful. Not loud power, not forceful power, but the kind that others feel when they're around you. Steady, centered, unshakable. That's what true strength looks like. Staying calm doesn't mean you suppress your emotions. It means you express them with control. You communicate clearly. You think deeply, and you act intentionally. You don't react, you respond. That's the difference between chaos and mastery. The world doesn't need more loud people. It needs more grounded ones. The next time life puts pressure on you, remember that your calm is your weapon. Don't give it away easily. Protect it like your peace depends on it. Because it does. Every moment you stay calm, you strengthen your control, your confidence, and your character. And one day you'll look back and realize that pressure didn't break you. It shaped you into someone who can handle anything without losing their peace.
Chapter 7. Choose people who add peace to your life. The people you allow into your life shape your world more than anything else. Every conversation, every connection, every relationship carries energy that either builds your peace or breaks it. You cannot live a calm and focused life surrounded by chaos disguised as friendship. You can't grow when you're constantly explaining your worth or fighting to be understood. Peace is not a luxury, it's a necessity. And choosing people who bring peace instead of pressure is one of the smartest decisions you'll ever make. There's a difference between being surrounded and being supported. You can have a room full of people and still feel empty if those people drain you. True connection doesn't exhaust you, it restores you. It doesn't demand that you shrink yourself to fit, it encourages you to expand. The right people don't compete with your light, they help you shine brighter. The wrong ones make you doubt your glow. Sooner or later, you must choose to stay around noise or to protect your peace. You can't control everyone's behavior, but you can choose whose energy you allow close to you. Life becomes simpler when you stop chasing people who bring drama and start valuing those who bring calm. Peaceful people don't mean they're quiet or reserved. It means they carry balance. They know how to listen, how to communicate, how to handle tension without turning it into war. When you surround yourself with those people, your days start feeling lighter and your heart feels safer. Sometimes the reason your peace feels unstable is not because of your own mind, but because of the company you keep. You can't expect to stay grounded while constantly being pulled into arguments, gossip, or negativity. The people around you should help you grow, not make you question your worth. They should add calm to your storm, not feed it. You deserve to be around people who make you feel understood without explaining every part of yourself. It takes courage to admit that some people are not good for your peace. It's hard to accept that someone you care about might also be the reason you feel anxious or drained. But maturity means recognizing that love and peace are not the same thing. You can love someone deeply and still realize that their presence costs too much. Some relationships are lessons, not lifelines. The sooner you accept that, the sooner you reclaim your peace. The right people won't make you feel like you're too much. They won't use your honesty against you or make you regret your vulnerability. They'll listen with empathy, not judgment. They'll celebrate your growth instead of feeling threatened by it. They'll tell you the truth when it's uncomfortable, but with kindness. When you find people like that, protect them. Peaceful people don't just show up, they're attracted to environments that value calm, honesty, and respect. Choosing peaceful people doesn't mean avoiding challenge or disagreement. Healthy relationships still have conflict, but the difference is how it's handled. People who value peace don't need to win every argument. They care more about understanding than being right. They don't weaponize your weaknesses when they're angry. They don't hold grudges. They can disagree with you and still love you. That kind of stability brings you peace because it's built on maturity, not ego. To attract peaceful people, you must also become one. You can't crave calmness while living in chaos yourself. If your habits are built around drama, gossip, or negativity, you'll continue to attract the same. But when you start healing, when you choose patience over reaction, when you speak with clarity instead of anger, your energy shifts, and your circle starts to shift with it. Like energy attracts like energy. You don't need to chase peace, you just need to become it. The most peaceful people aren't perfect, they've simply learned the value of protecting their inner world. They've been through storms, and now refuse to live in constant conflict. They choose their company carefully, not because they're better than others, but because they understand how precious peace really is. They know that every argument, every negative influence, every toxic connection takes away energy they could use to build something meaningful. Sometimes, peace requires distance. You don't have to hate someone to walk away from them. You can quietly step back from people who bring more stress than joy. You can wish them well and still choose not to let them back into your emotional space. Distance doesn't mean bitterness, it means balance. It means prioritizing your well-being over familiarity. The moment you stop feeling guilty for choosing peace, you start to heal. You'll notice that peaceful people make time feel slower. They make conversations meaningful. You don't have to pretend
or perform around them. You can sit in silence and still feel connected. They make you feel safe enough to be yourself without fear of judgment. These are the people who remind you that calmness isn't boring, it's freedom. Life is stressful enough on its own. Your relationship shouldn't add to that stress. You deserve relationships that make your heart feel light. You deserve to wake up without dread about who might call, what argument might happen, or what drama might unfold. You deserve to be surrounded by people who bring laughter instead of tension, understanding instead of confusion, and respect instead of control. That kind of environment doesn't just make life easier, it helps you grow faster because you're not constantly recovering from emotional wounds. The mistake many people make is believing that history equals harmony. Just because someone has been in your life for years doesn't mean they should stay. Longevity doesn't equal peace. Some people have been in your story too long, simply because you never stop to ask if they still belong. People grow, paths change, and not everyone will evolve with you. Choosing peace sometimes means letting go of what's familiar to make room for what's healthy. When you start surrounding yourself with peaceful people, you begin to notice subtle changes in yourself. You start sleeping better, thinking clearer, and feeling lighter. You become less reactive because you're not always on edge. You start enjoying quiet moments again. That's the sign that your environment is aligned with your well-being. Peaceful people don't just make life comfortable, they make it meaningful. If you've been around people who constantly criticize or dismiss you, you might have forgotten what genuine connection feels like. Real connection feels safe. It doesn't make you question your worth. It doesn't leave you anxious after every interaction. It makes you feel grounded, valued, and calm. The right people remind you that relationships should be sources of peace, not confusion. Sometimes the people who disturb your peace aren't doing it on purpose. They're simply not in a healthy place themselves. But it's not your job to fix them. You can offer understanding without sacrificing yourself. Compassion doesn't mean self-neglect. You can care without carrying their chaos. Boundaries are what allow you to love people without losing yourself in them. When you learn to set those boundaries, your peace becomes unshakable. It's easy to feel guilty when you start saying no to people who drain you. But you have to remember that your time and energy are limited. You can't pour into everyone without pouring into yourself first. You're not rejecting them, you're protecting your peace. People who genuinely care about you will understand that. Those who don't will accuse you of changing, and that's fine. Growth often looks like distance to those who refuse to evolve. Choosing peaceful people doesn't mean your life will be free of problems. It means you'll have the right people beside you when problems arise. You'll have conversations instead of arguments. Solutions instead of blame. Support instead of competition. That's what true peace looks like. Stability even when things get tough. When you have people like that, challenges become manageable because your circle gives you strength instead of stress. Be intentional about who you let close. Ask yourself, do I feel safe around this person? Do I feel heard? Do I leave their presence feeling lighter or heavier? Your body will tell you before your mind does. Listen to those feelings. Energy doesn't lie. If someone constantly drains you, it's not because you're too sensitive, it's because they're not aligned with your peace. As you grow, your definition of happiness changes. You stop chasing excitement and start craving peace. You realize that calm is not the absence of activity, it's the absence of chaos. The right people bring a sense of stability that helps you thrive. They don't make life dull, they make it balanced. You can laugh freely, work peacefully, and rest deeply when your environment is calm. It's also important to be the kind of person who adds peace to others' lives. Your presence should feel safe, not stressful. Your words should heal, not harm. Peaceful people don't gossip, manipulate, or compete. They listen, support and encourage. When you embody that energy, you attract it back. Peace is not only something you find, it's something you create. As you continue to grow, you'll notice that your circle gets smaller, and that's okay. Quality always outweighs quantity. One peaceful connection is worth more than 10 surface-level relationships. The goal isn't to have more people, it's to have the right people. The kind who make you feel calm even in your most uncertain moments. The kind who remind you of your strength when you forget. There's freedom in realizing that you don't have to keep everyone in your life. You can love from a distance, release with peace, and move forward without resentment. You can bless people and still protect your boundaries. That's what emotional maturity looks like. Understanding that peace doesn't come from avoiding people, but from choosing the right ones. You can't control everything that happens in life, but you can control who walks beside you. Choose people who bring peace, not panic. Choose those who make you feel secure, not uncertain. Choose people who value harmony over drama, growth over gossip, and honesty over manipulation. These people exist, but you have to make space for them by letting go of those who disturb your calm. Peaceful connections are not accidental, they're intentional. They're built on respect, honesty, and understanding. When you build your life around people who value those things, you'll notice that your days start to feel more meaningful. You'll laugh more, worry less, and focus on what truly matters. Life becomes quieter, but also richer. That's the power of peace. It simplifies what was once complicated. So choose wise. Surround yourself with people who make you feel safe to grow, who speak truth with kindness, who inspire calm instead of chaos. Protect your peace as fiercely as you protect your dreams, because without peace, no dream can survive. When you choose people who add peace to your life, you'll find that everything else, your focus, your joy, your strength, begins to rise naturally.
Chapter 8. Use disrespect as a reason to grow stronger. Disrespect has a way of cutting deep. It can hit you when you least expect it, from someone you trusted, from a stranger, from people you thought would understand you. It stings because it challenges your sense of worth. It makes you question yourself and wonder why others can't see your value. But here's the truth. Disrespect says more about them than it ever does about you. The key is not to let it break you, but to use it as fuel to become stronger. Every moment someone underestimates you is an opportunity to rise a razor. Every time someone dismisses you, they're unknowingly giving you a reason to build yourself up. You can't stop people from being disrespectful, but you can decide what to do with it. You can let it define you, or you can let it refine you. You can let it make you bitter, or you can let it make you better. The difference between the two is in how you respond. Growth doesn't come from comfort, it comes from challenge. Disrespect is painful, but it's also one of the most powerful teachers you'll ever encounter. It teaches you resilience, boundaries, and self-respect. It shows you where your emotional strength still needs work. When someone disrespects you, your first instinct might be to fight back, to prove them wrong, to make them regret it. That reaction is human. But it's also draining. You can't fight ignorance with emotion. The more you try to make someone see your worth, the more power you give them over your peace. The strongest response isn't revenge, it's evolution. It's standing taller, getting better, and using the pain as motivation to grow beyond their reach. You don't need to prove your value to anyone, just keep improving until they can't ignore it anymore. Disrespect reveals people's intentions. It shows you who they are, not who you are. When someone treats you poorly, they're revealing their level of awareness, their insecurities, their own inner battles. Don't internalize their behavior. You are not defined by the way others treat you. You're defined by how you rise above it. Every time you choose growth over reaction, you gain power. You train your mind to focus on what you can control, your effort, your response, your growth. That's how you turn disrespect into strength. There's a point where disrespect stops being personal and starts being a lesson. It teaches you where not to invest your energy. It teaches you to identify people who don't align with your peace. It teaches you that you don't have to stay where you're not valued. You learn that walking away from disrespect isn't weakness, it's wisdom. The moment you realize you don't have to participate in every battle, you start winning the battles that truly matter. Some of the greatest personal growth comes after someone disrespects you. That moment you feel disheartened, embarrassed or angry is often the beginning of transformation. It's the spark that ignites change. Disrespect can wake you up. It can push you to demand more of yourself and of your surroundings. It can force you to stop settling and start setting higher standards. What was meant to weaken you can become the reason you build something greater. When people underestimate you, don't argue. Don't explain, just work. Let your results speak louder than your emotions. Silence and progress make a powerful combination. Those who once disrespected you will eventually have no choice but to recognize the person you've become. But by then you won't even care, because you'll have grown so far that their opinions no longer hold weight. The goal is not to win their respect, it's to reach a level where you don't need it. Disrespect can also reveal where your confidence truly stands. If a few words can destroy your peace, it's a sign that your sense of self still depends on others. When you use those moments to strengthen your confidence, you become unshakable. You stop relying on validation and start building inner certainty. You stop reacting emotionally to every insult because you know who you are. You stop seeking closure from those who lack character because you've found peace within yourself. You can use disrespect as a mirror. Ask yourself, why does this bother me so much? Sometimes it's not just the person, it's what their words trigger inside you. Maybe it touches an old wound or insecurity. Instead of avoiding that discomfort, face it, heal it, grow from it. When you deal with the emotional roots, future disrespect won't hurt as deeply, because you'll know it doesn't define you. Strength doesn't come from avoiding pain, it comes from understanding it. The strongest people aren't those who've never been disrespected, they're the ones who've learned to rise above it with grace. They use every painful experience as material to build their strength. They don't hold grudges, they don't carry resentment, they use that energy to focus on their goals. Every insult becomes motivation, every rejection becomes redirection, every dismissal becomes discipline. That's the mindset of growth, turning pain into power. It's important to remember that not all disrespect is loud. Sometimes it's subtle. Being ignored, being overlooked, being treated as if your time or feelings don't matter. Those moments can hurt even more because they make you feel invisible. But invisibility doesn't mean you lack value, it just means your worth is not meant to be recognized in that environment. You don't have to force people to see you. You just have to put yourself where you're seen naturally. The world is full of people who will value you, but you can't find them if you're still trying to convince the wrong ones. Growth through disrespect means learning to detach. It means realizing that not every insult deserves your attention. You can't control people's behavior, but you can control how much space you give it in your life. The more you focus on disrespect, the more power it gains. But the moment you let it go and focus on improvement, it loses its grip. Growth happens when you redirect your focus from what hurt you to what can build you. You also have to remind yourself that disrespect often comes from fear or insecurity. People lash out when they feel threatened. They mock what they don't understand. They project their pain onto others. Understanding this doesn't excuse their behavior, but it helps you detach emotionally. It reminds you that their words come from their wounds, not from your worth. Once you see it that way, you stop taking things personally and start protecting your energy. Every time someone disrespects you,
They're giving you a chance to strengthen your emotional discipline. You get to practice patience, self-control, and resilience. Instead of reacting, you can choose silence. Instead of defending yourself, you can choose focus. Every moment of restraint builds inner power. You'll start to notice that you no longer get triggered easily. You'll realize that you've outgrown the version of yourself that once needed to prove something. That's real progress. The kind that doesn't need an audience. Sometimes disrespect comes disguised as advice or jokes. People will mock your dreams, question your choices, or make light of your progress. You don't have to argue with them, just keep moving. The best way to respond is with consistency. Let your actions prove your seriousness. Over time, the same people who laughed will have no choice but to respect your results. But by that time you won't even be thinking about them, because you'll be too focused on your own growth. Growth born from disrespect builds an entirely new mindset. You start caring less about what people think and more about who you're becoming. You stop wasting time on emotional battles and invest that energy into personal evolution. You begin to view disrespect as feedback, not about your worth, but about where your attention shouldn't be. You start to understand that every slight, every rejection, every dismissal was shaping you into someone who no longer needs approval to feel valid. When you use disrespect to grow stronger, you change the dynamic completely. The same things that used to break you now build you. The same people who tried to belittle you become reminders of your progress. You stop running from disrespect and start learning from it. You use it as motivation to refine your craft, improve your discipline, and elevate your standards. You turn every negative into something useful. That's how strong people are made, not by avoiding hardship, but by transforming it. You also learn that strength isn't about becoming hard or bitter. It's about becoming stable. It's about keeping your kindness while developing sharper awareness. Growth doesn't mean losing your compassion. It means adding wisdom to it. When you rise after being disrespected, you don't do it to prove others wrong. You do it to prove yourself right. You remind yourself that your peace, your goals, and your growth are worth more than anyone's opinion. Disrespect can be one of life's greatest motivators if you let it. Many successful people started their journey because someone told them they couldn't do it. They turned doubt into drive. They let rejection sharpen their focus instead of killing their ambition. You can do the same. When someone disrespects you, don't waste time trying to change their mind. Use that energy to build your reality. Let your progress be the answer. Using disrespect as a reason to grow stronger also teaches you emotional independence. You stop depending on others to define how you feel about yourself. You start measuring your worth by your effort, your growth, and your values. When you no longer rely on outside validation, disrespect loses its ability to hurt you. It might sting for a moment, but it won't stop you. You'll start to see that your power was never in their opinion. It was always in your response. As you grow, you'll also notice that disrespect becomes easier to recognize and easier to walk away from. You'll no longer stay in environments that make you feel small. You'll no longer explain your worth to people who choose not to see it. You'll stop fighting for a seat at tables where you were never meant to sit. You'll build your own table, surrounded by respect, purpose, and peace. There's something powerful about turning pain into strength. It changes your energy completely. You stop being reactive and start being intentional. You start to thank the moments that once hurt you, because they forced you to grow. Disrespect might have wounded you, but it also woke you up. It pushed you towards self-awareness and self-respect. It made you realize that your value doesn't come from how others treat you. It comes from how you treat yourself. You can't avoid disrespect forever, but you can make sure it never defines you. Every time someone disrespects you, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Maybe it's patience. Maybe it's assertiveness. Maybe it's letting go. Every experience gives you something, if you choose to see it that way. Growth isn't about pretending the pain doesn't exist. It's about turning that pain into progress. At some point you'll look back and realize that the people who disrespected you were actually part of your growth story. They unknowingly helped you build strength, clarity, and resilience. You'll see that what once hurt you now empowers you, and you'll be grateful, not for the disrespect, but for the strength it forced you to discover. So when disrespect comes your way, don't break, don't shrink, don't retaliate. Use it. Use it as a reminder of what you deserve. Use it as fuel to grow, to improve, to elevate. Let it strengthen your focus, not your bitterness, because the best response to disrespect is not anger, it's evolution. And when you evolve, you outgrow the noise. You become untouchable not because others stopped trying to hurt you, but because you learned how to turn every hit into fuel for your strength.
Chapter 9. Forgive quickly, but never forget your self-worth. Forgiveness is one of the hardest things a person can learn, especially when the hurt runs deep. When someone disrespects you, lies to you, or betrays your trust, it feels like a part of your heart closes off. You replay the words, the moments, the disappointment. You wonder how someone could treat you that way after everything you gave. Forgiving doesn't come naturally. It feels unfair, like letting them get away with something. But forgiveness isn't about them, it's about you. It's about freeing yourself from the emotional weight that keeps you stuck in the same pain. It's choosing to stop carrying what's already happened. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending it never hurt or letting people walk over you again. It means releasing the bitterness that poisons your peace. It's saying, I won't let this control me anymore. Holding on to anger doesn't protect your worth, it just drains your energy. Every time you think about what happened and feel that tightness in your chest, you're reliving the hurt. Forgiveness breaks that cycle. It gives you back your power to focus on yourself instead of the person who wronged you. But here's the balance most people miss. You can forgive someone fully and still remember who you are. You can let go of the pain without letting go of your standards. Forgiveness doesn't require reconciliation. You don't have to rebuild trust with someone just because you've released your anger. Some people don't deserve another chance. You can forgive them in your heart and still keep them at a distance. That's not hate, that's self-respect. When you forgive quickly, you don't allow resentment to harden you. You protect your peace. You keep your emotional doors open for better experiences, but never confuse forgiveness with weakness. Forgiving quickly means you're emotionally strong enough to move forward without needing revenge. It means you understand that staying bitter only ties you to the past. You're not excusing their actions, you're refusing to let their actions define you. Forgiveness is a process of releasing control. You can't make people feel guilty enough to change. You can't demand closure from someone who doesn't value your feelings. You can only decide to stop letting the situation live rent-free in your mind. The moment you forgive, you reclaim your peace. The moment you let go, you start healing. That's why forgiveness is powerful. It frees you from waiting for someone else to make it right. But forgiveness doesn't erase memory. The lesson remains. Remembering your self-worth means remembering the boundaries that were crossed, the signs you ignored, and the standards you compromised. It's not about punishing yourself for what happened. It's about learning so it doesn't happen again. Forgetting your worth after forgiving someone is like leaving your door unlocked after being robbed. You forgive, but you don't stop protecting what's valuable. There's a difference between forgiveness and permission. Forgiveness means letting go of anger. Permission means allowing it to happen again. Don't confuse the two. Some people will test your boundaries after you forgive them. They'll assume your kindness means accept. But this is where your self-worth comes in. You can be kind and still say no. You can forgive and still refuse to return to what broke you. You don't owe anyone repeated chances at your peace. Forgiving quickly doesn't mean rushing your healing.
It means not feeding the resentment while you heal. It means acknowledging what happened, feeling it fully, and then deciding that it won't control your future. Healing takes time, but forgiveness starts the process. You can forgive someone today and still need weeks or months to fully recover emotionally. That's normal. Forgiveness isn't forgetting, it's letting go of the need to keep reopening the wound. The reason many people struggle with forgiveness is because they think it means pretending everything is fine. But true forgiveness doesn't deny reality, it accepts it. It says, yes, this happened, yes it hurt, and yes I'm choosing to move on anyway. You're not erasing the truth, you're choosing peace over pain. That choice is not for the other person, it's for your own growth. Forgiving quickly also protects your energy. Anger and resentment consume a lot of emotional space. They distract you from what matters. When you forgive, you redirect that energy towards self-improvement. You focus on becoming better, not bitter. You start thinking clearly again. You begin to attract peace instead of replaying pain. That shift in focus is what helps you rebuild your confidence and remember your worth. Your self-worth doesn't depend on how others treat you. It depends on how you treat yourself after they hurt you. If you forgive but keep returning to the same disrespect, you're sending yourself the message that your boundaries don't matter. Real forgiveness means learning the lesson, not repeating the pattern. When you value yourself, forgiveness becomes an act of strength, not surrender. You're saying, I release the pain, but I remember the lesson. Self-worth means knowing that you are allowed to outgrow people who hurt you. You can forgive them without inviting them back into your life. You can wish them well and still walk away. Forgiveness doesn't mean continuing the relationship, it means continuing your life. You can't find peace in the same environment that disrespected you. Walking away after forgiveness is not cruelty, it's clarity. Forgive quickly because life is too short to carry grudges. Every day you hold on to resentment, you're wasting emotional energy on something that can't be changed. But never forget your worth, because that's what prevents the same pain from happening again. People who value themselves don't keep revisiting situations that hurt them. They learn, they heal, and they move forward stronger. Forgiveness is also an act of emotional maturity. It shows that you understand that people act out of their own pain and ignorance. You don't excuse them, but you stop letting their behavior poison your heart. You realize that you've hurt others too. Maybe not in the same way, but in your own imperfect human way. That understanding creates compassion, and compassion makes forgiveness easier. But compassion without boundaries is dangerous. You can be understanding and still be firm. You can see someone struggle and still protect yourself from their behavior. When you forgive, you also teach your mind that you control your emotions, not the other way around. You prove to yourself that you can rise above the situation. That's a sign of inner power. Weak people hold grudges because they can't handle the vulnerability of letting. Strong people forgive because they've learned that peace is more valuable than being right. However, never forgetting your self-worth means you keep your standards high. You remember what you deserve, and you don't compromise it to keep anyone. You recognize your value even when others fail. You stop settling for half effort or half respect. You stop chasing people who can't see your worth. The moment you forgive and still hold your value, you break free from emotional dependence. You stop needing others to fix what they broke because you've already healed it yourself. Forgiving quickly also keeps you emotionally flexible. You move through life without carrying unnecessary weight. Every time you hold a grudge, you close yourself off a little more. Forgiveness keeps your heart open, your spirit light, and your focus clear. It's not about forgetting the pain, but about not living inside it. You can't grow while holding grudges. They anchor you to old stories. To forgive quickly and remember your worth, you must learn to separate the action from the lesson. The action hurt you, but the lesson strengthens you. The action disappointed you, but the lesson taught you boundaries. When you focus on the lesson instead of the offense, you turn pain into growth. That's how wisdom is built, not by avoiding pain, but by understanding it. Forgiveness doesn't erase accountability. You can forgive someone and still hold them responsible for their choices. You can move on without pretending it was okay. Boundaries are not walls, they are filters that protect your peace. When you keep your boundaries after forgiveness, you send a clear message. I don't hold anger, but I won't accept that again. That's how you balance peace with power. Remember, not everyone you forgive deserves a seat in your future. Some people belong in your past as a lesson, not as a constant reminder. You owe it to yourself to forgive and release them with grace. That doesn't make you cold, it makes you wise. You've learned that peace doesn't come from clinging. It comes from letting. Forgiving quickly also aligns with self-respect, because it keeps you in control of your emotions. When you refuse to forgive, you're still emotionally tied to the person who hurt you. They occupy space in your mind, long after they've left your life. But when you forgive, you break that tie. You free yourself. You reclaim your energy and focus it on something meaningful, your growth, your goals, your happiness. Forgiveness is not about fairness, it's about freedom. Some people will never apologize, some will never acknowledge what they did. You can't wait for them to make peace with the past before you move on. You can decide that their apology isn't necessary for your healing. You can forgive them silently and still move forward boldly. That's what emotional strength looks like, the ability to close chapters without closure. But never forgetting your self-worth means you never let forgiveness turn into self-betrayal. Don't shrink your boundaries to look forgiving. Don't silence your pain to appear strong. Forgive from a place of clarity, not desperation. Forgive because you value your peace, not because you fear losing someone. That's the difference between real forgiveness and emotional dependency. In time, you'll realize that forgiveness and self-worth are connected. The more you value yourself, the easier it becomes to forgive others, because when you know your worth, you no longer take everything personally. You understand that someone's disrespect doesn't reduce your value, it only exposes theirs. You start to see that holding on to anger doesn't fix the past, it only slows your growth. You grow strongest when you can say, I forgive you, but I remember who I am. That single mindset separates peace from pain. It allows you to walk through life lightly, yet firmly. You become kind, but not naive, open-hearted, but not unguarded, forgiving, but never forgetful of your own value. Eventually, forgiveness becomes less about others and more about your evolution. You stop doing it for them. You do it for your heart, for your health, for your future. You forgive quickly because you want peace now, not late. And you never forget your worth because you've learned that peace without self-respect is fragile. You'll meet people who will test your patience and cross your boundaries again. But with every experience, your response will change. You'll forgive faster, not because it didn't hurt, but because you've grown stronger. You'll remember your worth faster, not because you're hardened, but because you've learned. That's growth. Responding with peace and power at the same time. So forgive quickly, not for their sake, but for your freedom. Let go of what weighs you down. Release the resentment that steals your joy, but never forget your self-worth. Keep your boundaries strong, your standards high, and your peace sacred. Forgive to heal, not to return. Forgive to rise, not to shrink, because the real victory isn't proving anyone wrong. It's becoming so whole within yourself that no disrespect, no disappointment, no betrayal can ever shake your peace again.
Chapter 10. Live each day with standards that demand respect. Respect is not something you ask for every once in a while. It's something you live for every single day. It's not a demand you make with words. It's a standard you set with the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, the choices you make, the boundaries you hold. They all tell the world how to treat you. You can't live a life that invites disrespect and expect others to value you. Respect starts from within. It begins the moment you decide that your time, your energy, and your peace are sacred. It begins when you stop letting people treat you in ways that go against your sense of worth. Every person who commands respect does so not because they are louder or more powerful, but because they have built a foundation of standards that never change with mood, circumstance, or company. They live with consistency. They don't lower their expectations to fit in. They don't beg for approval. They walk in quiet confidence, knowing that self-respect attracts real respect. People are drawn to those who have standards because standards signal value, and value attracts value. Your standards reflect how much you value yourself. If you accept poor treatment, inconsistency, or disrespect, you're teaching others that it's acceptable. People learn how to treat you by watching what you allow. When you live with standards, you don't have to constantly explain them. You simply live them. You don't need to shout about your worth. Your actions make it clear. Standards are not rules you place on others. They're expectations you hold for yourself. They're the invisible boundaries that protect your peace, guide your choices, and filter your relationship. Living each day with standards that demand respect starts with self-discipline. You can't expect others to respect your word if you don't respect it yourself. If you constantly break promises to yourself, you weaken your own credibility. The same way you expect honesty, reliability, and consistency from others, you must embody those traits. Respect flows outward from self-respect. The more integrity you live with, the more naturally respect follows. The way you talk to yourself also sets the tone for how others will talk to you. If your inner voice constantly criticizes, belittles, or doubts you, it becomes easier to tolerate that behavior from others. But when you speak to yourself with kindness and confidence, you start rejecting anything that doesn't align with that energy. Standards aren't just about external behavior, they're about internal dialogue. Every time you tell yourself, "I deserve better," you're reinforcing your standard. It's easy to talk about standards when life is calm. The true test comes when you're under pressure, when someone you care about tests your boundaries, or when walking away feels painful. Standards are not truly standards until they are tested. When you stand firm in moments of pressure, you strengthen your self-worth. When you refuse to accept disrespect even from someone you love, you prove to yourself that your peace is not negotiable. That's how self-respect grows, through difficult choices, not comfortable ones. Having high standards doesn't mean you're arrogant. It means you know your value. There's a difference between entitlement and self-worth. Entitlement says, "You owe me." Self-worth says, "I'm responsible for how I allow others to treat me." People with healthy standards don't demand perfection from others. They simply expect consistency, effort, and honesty. They understand that mutual respect is the foundation of every relationship, personal or professional. Your daily habits reveal your standards more than your words do. The way you manage your time, your body, your focus, and your emotions all communicate what you expect from life. If you live with chaos, neglect your priorities, or let negative influences rule your space, you're teaching yourself to accept less than you deserve. But when you live with structure, self-care, and clarity, you raise the bar not just for others, but for yourself. People notice how you move, how you respond, how you handle challenges. Every action either reinforces or weakens your standard. When you have strong standards, you stop seeking validation. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself in every situation. You stop chasing people's approval because you've already approved of yourself. You realize that respect isn't given freely. It's earned through consistency and presence. The people who respect you most will be the ones who've watched you live your standards, not just talk about them. Living each day with standards that demand respect also means setting boundaries without guilt. You can say no without being rude. You can express your needs without apology.
You can distance yourself from situations that disturb your peace. Boundaries are not walls, they're gates that protect your mental and emotional space. You don't owe anyone unlimited access to you. Respect grows when you learn to give your energy wisely and intentionally. The truth is, not everyone will like your standard. Some people will call you difficult, cold, or unapproachable, simply because they can't manipulate your boundaries anymore. But that's a sign you're doing something right. When you start demanding respect, people who benefited from your lack of it will resist. Don't lower your standards to make others comfortable. The right people will rise to meet them, the wrong ones will fall away. Either outcome brings peace. You teach respect by how you show up daily. When you're consistent, when you speak with intention, when you follow through on your word, people notice. The world respects reliability. People respect clarity. You don't need to intimidate others to gain respect. You just need to stand firm in what you believe and who you are. When you know yourself deeply, no one can convince you to settle for less. Having standards doesn't make you rigid, it makes you clear. You can still be kind, compassionate, and flexible without compromising your values. In fact, true kindness thrives in clarity. When people know what you stand for, they trust you more. They know where the line is. Standards give structure to your relationships. They remove confusion and prevent resentment. You also have to remember that standards start small. They're built in everyday choices, how you respond to disrespect, how you spend your time, how you carry yourself when no one is watching. Every decision sends a message about what you expect from life. If you consistently choose the easy route, you're setting a low standard for your future. But when you make decisions based on your principles, even when it's uncomfortable, you're building character, and character commands respect. Living with standards means valuing your time like it's priceless. You stop giving it away to people who waste it. You stop saying yes to things that drain you. You spend your energy on growth, not on convincing others to treat you better. You start living intentionally, choosing what and who aligns with your peace. When you treat your time with respect, others learn to do the same. You also set the tone for how others behave around you, through your emotional control. When you respond to disrespect with calmness instead of chaos, you show power. When you keep your composure instead of losing it, you set an example. People can't manipulate someone who's emotionally steady. Your calmness communicates confidence, and confidence naturally demands respect. Standards also extend to how you treat others. Respect is a two-way exchange. You can't expect it if you don't give it. Treat people with fairness, speak with honesty, and listen with presence. People remember how you make them feel, and consistent kindness builds long-term respect. You don't gain respect by forcing it, you earn it through integrity and humility. When you live with strong standards, your life begins to filter itself. Toxic people leave, healthy people stay, drama fades, peace grows. You stop attracting chaos because your energy no longer entertains it. You start to notice how light your life feels when you no longer compromise your values for acceptance. Peace becomes your normal, not your exception. Living each day with standards that demand respect also means expecting more from yourself. Not perfection, but progress. You hold yourself accountable. You show up on time. You do what you say you'll do. You keep your word even when no one's watching. You don't cut corners. You don't gossip or play small games. That's what self-respect looks like in action. It's not flashy, but it's powerful. It makes people trust you, admire you, and look up to you. People who have no standards often drift through life, letting others decide how far they go there. People with standards build direction. They know what they want and what they won't tolerate. They know that peace without principles is temporary. They don't beg for respect because their behavior commands it. They don't chase opportunities that require them to lose integrity. They understand that real success means staying aligned with who you are. Living with standards doesn't mean you never compromise. It means you never compromise your values. You can adapt, adjust, and evolve without losing your core. The goal is to build a life that feels right to your soul, not one that just looks right to others. When your actions match your principles, you start to feel confident in a deeper way, not because of what you have, but because of who you are becoming. Sometimes you'll need to raise your standards after realizing you've accepted less than you deserved. Don't feel guilty for that. Growth means outgrowing what once felt normal. When you know better, you do better. You start saying no faster. You stop explaining yourself so much, and you make peace with being misunderstood. Because your goal is not to be liked, it's to be respected. Every day you wake up, you have the chance to set the tone for how life treats you. Start the day with intention. Remind yourself that you're worthy of respect in every space you enter. Speak clearly. Move with confidence. Make decisions that reflect your values. Hold your head high even when things go wrong. That consistency builds inner strength. As you live with these standards, you'll notice how your world changes. Your relationships will improve. Your work will feel more purposeful. You'll stop tolerating what drains you. You'll begin to attract people and opportunities that align with your value. That's not luck. That's the reward of living with standards that demand respect. In time, you won't need to say much about who you are. People will feel it. They'll sense it in your posture, your tone, your energy. They'll know that you are someone who values yourself, someone who expects respect and gives it freely. That's real power. Quiet, consistent, and undeniable. Live each day with standards that demand respect. Not sometimes. Respect yourself through your words, your habits, your decisions, and your boundaries. Because when you truly respect yourself, you set the standard for how the world must treat you. And the world always responds to what you consistently demand from it.